If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the views of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliates or sponsors.
Welcome back to the show. We're about to be joined with our guest, numerologist Didier Boyer. Well, just a bit of background on Didier. He was born in Paris 1968 and at the age of 17 discovered healing through a rugby injury. During the 80s, Didier moved to England, eventually settling in Norfolk, where he met a long-term partner. But when their relationship collapsed, the pain was such that he decided to dedicate his life to helping others. To cut an amazing story short, he would now call this lady a hidden healer. By the end of the 90s, Didier discovered numerology and knew instantly that this was his destiny. Didier now provides numerology readings for people all over the world, and this is now his full-time occupation. Didier, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Kevin. Thank you.
Numerology, Didier. What exactly is it?
Numerology is a tool which helps understand life and the lessons that we have to learn and what we call like the meaning of life, if you like. Some people look for the meaning of their lives, all their lives, never finding it. With numerology, you can tell what people are here to learn, whether they are here to learn to help others or to think of themselves first, or being creative or empowering. It's an amazing tool like astrology.
Yes.
To help people do what's best for them, to be in the right relationship with someone or with a job or with a lifestyle. Some people are designed to work in a team. Some people are designed to work alone. So you can see all that with numerology. You can see if someone has special hidden talents and whether they are using it or not, whether they should be in something more creative or spiritual or business oriented. So it's just an amazing tool to understand what you are all about and how to make the most of it. So it's based on your date of birth. It's the concept that you are a reincarnation and that you choose to reincarnate on a certain date, and that date is like a secret code which says a lot about what you are here to do and what you are good at and what you are not so good at. And then there is your name. Your name is given to you, but where does the thought come from in the first place to give someone like a middle name? Or why do some people spell Anne with an E or without?
Yes.
Or Alison with two L or one L? So a name is given like a healer gives healing. It's a thought, and however crazy it might seem, when you study the names, you can see what people should be doing, whether they're better designed to be self-employed or a team player, whether they're going to have difficulties in relationships or whether they're going to have an easier ride, whether they're compatible with someone or not. It's very useful for that. You can plan your career, you can tell when it's the right time to look for a job or when it's a waste of time, when you try to sell a house, whether it's a good time or it's best to wait. But I always give advice on the positive side because there's always a yin and a yang. There's always a positive and a negative. And with numerology, you can see all that.
Okay. So would you say with numerology then that we're born with specific numbers, that we choose those numbers? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I believe we have far less choice once we are incarnated than many people think. But we have choices, if you like, from the spirit world, and we choose what we're going to come and learn about. Some funny example, I was studying not long ago the the famous lottery winner, who was called the lottery lad, Michael Carroll.
Yes.
And Michael Carroll is a young man who at 19 won £9.7 million, I think it was. And funny enough, the guy is actually here to learn about money. But he's also here to learn about money with issues about limitation. And for what I understand, all the money he won from the lottery has very quickly dissipated. So you can make sense of what goes on in people's lives. Like Liz Taylor, the famous actress Elizabeth Taylor, she's an 8, which is also to do with learning about money. And I think she's probably on her 8th marriage. And she would have probably spent a lot of money on various divorces.
Yeah.
And so it's an amazing concept that numbers relate to our lives. But someone like me who study famous people constantly, it just absolutely amazed me. Even after 10 years, the coincidences, if you like, that you find. I was studying Barack Obama, for instance, because everybody goes on about Barack Obama at the moment. And I thought, well, he's a smooth talker, he seems to charm people. But then when he was elected, I thought, hang on, there's something more about this guy. And in numerology, we have, proper numerologists, and a lot of them are not, but proper numerologists know about the power of what we call the energy 11 and 22. And Barack Obama is loaded with the energy 11, which can be found in the name Barack. His date of birth adds up to 11. The name Barack Obama is made of 11 letters, and just like the name Jesus Christ, actually. And the more I look at the guy, the more I think, by the way, same amount of letters as the name Bill Clinton, if I remember right. And so I think that the guy is indeed a healer in disguise. And having looked at numerology, I'm much more optimistic now that he's more than just a pretty face, if you like. And I reckon he's going to be very good at finding the right people, even if he hasn't got all the skills himself. I think he will find the right people, and he will make a difference, and he has already made a difference in the world. And he's what I call a healer in disguise, or what you called about this lady I met in the 80s,
a hidden healer.
Hidden healer.
Yeah.
I often use the expression healer in disguise. So people who, like Jesus adds up to 11, Jesus Christ is 11 letter. Those unusual people who have more to them than just what meet the eyes.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, with the numbers 11 and 22, I mean, you mentioned these numbers. Are these master numbers that you said they are?
Yes. So to me, they are the only 2 master numbers. I know that you, Kevin, you are born on the 22nd. So when I talked to you first, that there was a special potential there, which can also create a certain nervous tension in people. And I have countless example of 11, especially, coming into important events to do with worldwide happenings.
Okay.
And some numerologists talk about 33, 44, and 55. To me, it's a complete load of rubbish. And I challenge people who think that other numbers, that 11 and 22, are master numbers. I say, well, bring me your examples, and we'll see how many you have. Compare with 11 and 22. 11 is what we call, I call it like the energy of the light,
yes,
the energy of Christ, whatever you want to call it. 22 is the energy of God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. We're not talking religion, we're talking spiritual matters. This year there was a very interesting program on Stephen Hawking, the guy who thinks he can explain God and the creation of the universe, and he thinks he's going to do it in one book. And I was studying Mr. Hawking, and I just had this feeling. I saw his car coming out of his drive, and I saw the number plate there. And quickly I made a note, and I'd recorded the program to study it carefully, and I saw that on his number plate he had number 56, which is 11, 5 and 6. But that's not what I was looking for. I just thought, God is having a good time, or whatever you want to call it. This guy thinks he can explain God. Who does he think he is? And I think God is aware of that. So I added up his number plate, and he's got a special car because of his wheelchair. And surprise, surprise, his car number plate, and that's relevant for a lot of people, the number plate, adds up to 22. So it was quite a funny image for me that this car was taking him wherever he wanted to go, but the person in charge was not Mr. Hawking, the energy of God.
Okay.
And to me, there is absolutely no doubt that Mr. Hawking will never find the meaning of God and the beginning of all things. And if you think he finds it, it will soon be proved to be a mistake anyway.
Okay.
So it's a number which hides in all sorts of things. For instance, the 9/11 situation.
Yeah.
The New York 9/11 disaster.
Terrorist
when you
attacks,
study it, a lot of people don't know that, but it actually happened on the 254th day of the year. And if you have a diary, you can check that. 254th day is 11/254. And there was actually 111 days left to the year. And then you find out that the towers, which looked to me pretty much like an 11, had 110 floors. And when you look into it, and on the internet there's a lot of rubbish about 11 connected to the name of George W. Bush or whatever it was. When I study something or someone, I take the full name, I take the name of a country, as the people say it in that country. But 11 comes up in many places. I'm just looking here on my file. 92 people died on flight number 11, which was the one which hit one of the tower. I mean, if we had more time, we could look at it.
Sure.
But it is, I was telling you earlier on when we had a little chat about Area 51 in Nevada, and the Area 51 in Nevada, they've got a Boeing, I was amused to see, they've got a plane which takes people to that area, and the number on the plane is 290, which adds up to 11, and you would expect to find 11 or 22 in things to do with specialness to do with mankind.
Okay.
And in fact, if you look at the name Area 51, you will find that all the letters add up to 22, which is, if you like, the work of God hidden within. And a lot of people don't know that unless they are really interested in the subject. But what's called Area 51 is also called, I believe, it's the nearest town. The nearest town is Rachel.
Yes, I believe it is.
Where all the engineers and specialist guys, I think, take the plane 290 to go to Area 51.
That's right.
And Rachel adds up to 11 as well. So a lot of funny coincidence.
So numbers are everywhere, aren't they?
I mean, it's just mind-blowing. I mean, I was looking at the Millennium Dome in London. They chose as the spirit zone. The spirit zone was zone 11. Why? Why did they sign the armistice on the 11th of the 11th from the 11th hour?
So these master numbers follow big situations around, basically.
Yeah, and it is just unreal. And if people have them within them, like Obama, funny enough, like Bill Clinton is also an 11.
Yeah.
Like Tony Blair is an 11. Like Gordon Brown is an 11. It shows that there are people or situations which are about trying to make a difference to the world, trying to make the world a better place. Some people are 11, and it can be a very tough ride because, if you like, it's what we call light workers.
Yeah.
And there's a lady called Sandy Stevenson who wrote a book where she talks about the vibration 11 and double 11 in particular. And for some people, it can be a tough journey. I mean, I was studying not long ago the wonderful musician Mike Oldfield. And,
oh, yes.
Yeah, probably too young to remember who Mike Oldfield is.
Well, I've heard his music.
Right. If I mentioned to people Tubular Bells,
yes,
the music
that's right.
of The Exorcist.
Yeah, they'd know.
But also there's a wonderful record called Omadan. And Mike Oldfield is pretty much what you would call a triple 11, which is extremely rare. We are made up of 3 core numbers. In fact, when I was looking at yours, Kevin, your 3 core numbers, actually, they all add up to 11. And because you are born on the 22nd, it shows that there is someone with an unusual potential. Doesn't always mean that people realize it, but that's also what I help people with in my readings.
Well, that's what this show's about, something unique and different.
Yeah, and you can't get much more different than someone like Mike Oldfield with a triple 11. The thing is, for the poor guy, is he had an enormous problem with shyness, and one of the problems that Richard Branson had with Mike Oldfield is that he couldn't get him to do any concert. And a lot of people don't know that, but Mike Oldfield was really at the start of the wealth of Richard Branson. And when Mike Oldfield came on the scene, with the help of Mr. Branson, Mr. Branson was really hoping to do a lot of concerts, and the guy was too shy and too reserved. And eventually, he released a book last year in 2007 because Mike Oldfield went into depression and had all sort of difficult problems, which are quite normal, if you like, for an 11. So I help people understand what it's all about. Yes, there's tremendous potential attached to 11. Talking about musicians, we have Mozart. Mozart is an 11 as well. The name Wolfgang has an 11 hidden in it. But what does it mean to the guy down the road, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you can help people make the most, especially if they've had a tough journey, because those healers in disguise often have to learn about pain and suffering before they help others. And some they don't kind of cope with it very well. So they can become maybe alcoholic or very depressed or hyper-emotional, including to the point of being very nasty to other people. But you can help them understand the spiritual dimension of what they are about, you know. And you can, because I record stuff on tape, when people listen to the tape, they found that it makes them do things that they've been meaning to or they've been thinking of doing, and then suddenly it all happens.
So how can people work out their numbers? I mean, would they have to come to someone like yourself to do that, would they? To work
well, it is really best because, I mean, I don't like the saying little knowledge is dangerous, but unfortunately it's kind of true.
Yeah.
Especially when you deal with master number 1122, because some people, including numerologists that I call rubbish numerologists, would tell you that an 11 is actually a 2 based on 1 + 1. So depending how you add up the date of birth, you will come with a 2 or an 11, or like someone like Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra was what we call a 13, but 13, which is 1 and 3 equal 4.
Yeah.
And he's also a 22. So normally the right way to do it is, let's say you are born on the 1st of January 2000, although you probably won't be listening to your radio show. So let's take 1966.
Okay.
A great year,
Yep.
as they say. Eric Cantona was born, and I believe England won something that day, that year. So if you take the 1st of the 1st, 1966, bad numerologists would add up from left to right. 1 + 1 + 1 + 9 + 6 + 6. Now what you do is you take each number at a time. 1 is 1. January is 1, stays 1. And 1966 adds up to 22. Okay. Once you have your 1, and your 22, then you add them across. And then you've got 23, 24. So 1 + 1 + 22 equals 24. And then you reduce that. 2 + 4 equals 6. Though someone born on a 1/1/1966 will be a 6.
Okay.
Hopefully people are recording it so they can play the recording.
Yes,
I think they can listen on internet.
Of course they can, replay,
And they'll get the idea.
Yeah.
If you have the number 11 involved, like if you're born on the 11th of the 11th, 11 does not become 2, it stays 11. If you are born on the 20th of, let's say, March, 20 is 2, and March is 3, so 2 plus 3. And if you take the same year, 1966, you add up 22 to those two numbers. And then you find a number, and then you have to know what it stands for. But the problem is that I've had people who developed unbelievably negative feel about what they stand for. Like, I'll never forget a lady who was an 8, which is about learning about money. And some idiot told her that it was a cursed number, a bad number, that her life will be bad luck. And this lady went around completely hyper about how she had no chance in life and that her life was going to be a nightmare, especially on the money side. And there is no such thing. Every number, and if people don't know about the concept of yin and yang, they need to type on the internet, yin and yang, do a search, understand that everything has a positive and a negative, and that you wouldn't appreciate daylight if you didn't have night, you wouldn't appreciate warmth if you didn't have cold. And some people actually love the cold, some people love the winter, some people love the summer. So every number has a good side, a side you like, and a side that you won't like so much. But you have to be very detached about it and philosophical. And then you look at the name, and the name is a set of symbols, and the people who listen to the show and have done Reiki 2 or more will know about those amazing Reiki symbols with tremendous powers. And it's no different to the letters in your name. And the letters in your name, they are translated very simply. Well, it's easy to translate them in numbers, then it's how you interpret, which is difficult. I always say to people, a great tarot reader can teach you what each tarot card stands for, but it's how your brain, your intuitive psychicness connect those cards. That's the magic of it.
Yes.
But if you have a name like Kevin, for instance, you'll find that the letter K is the 11th letter. Actually, I've forgotten about that. So you've got the first letter of your name is 11, you are born on the 22nd, and all your numbers, your 3 core numbers, what your name adds up to, what your date of birth adds up to, and what your vowels adds up to, add up to 11. So we start getting a picture there, you see. Yep. So if you take Kevin as an example, the letter K is the 11th letter, so you make it, in that case, number 2, 1 plus 1. That's the only time where you reduce 11 or 22 is when you look at the name, okay?
Okay.
But what you'll find is that if you stay with K as the letter 11, you will still find the same number. The letter E of Kevin is the 5th letter, so that becomes a 5. The V is, I think, the 22nd letter, the I is the 9th, the N is probably the 14th letter, and you should normally end up with the name Kevin being translated as 25495, and when you add them all up, you'll find that they add up to 25. 2 and 5 equals 7, and then the name Kevin becomes 7. So you do each name like that. Bad numerologist will add up from left to right your full name, and then miss out on all those little subtle, what we call modifiers or intensifiers. And once you've got your name completely translated in numbers, plus your date of birth, well, if you have a psychic awareness which really gets on well with numerology, or should I say the other way around, numerology gets on well with your psychic awareness, you can then see what it's all about. What should you do with it? What activities are best for you? What activities are best to avoid?
Okay. And I mean, would you say that is there such a thing as one number attracts another number?
It's a good point. In relationship, for instance, I like people to have one of their 3 core numbers the same. If one of the partner, like in the case of David Beckham and Victoria, if one of the partner has an 11 or a 22, and none of the 3 core numbers are the same, it doesn't matter so much, because it's a very complex setup which really needs someone like me who is really an expert in dealing with those
Sure.
unusual numbers. But you will always find, and I shouldn't really say always because there's always the exception to confirm the rule, really, on the whole, friends have one of their 3 core numbers the same. And when they don't, normally it's because 11 or 22 comes in, or when there is a special dynamic about the relationship, and that's when a psychic person like me can see that. For instance, 2 friends, they were very good friends, and they go into partnership in business, and one betray the other one big time, and the other one has a nightmare, lose the business, go bankrupt. You can have, again, what we call a healer in disguise. But normally, the people who are most suited are people who have similar numbers. That's for friendship. And funny enough, when you look at Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, there was much talk about the relationship of those 2. And in fact, both of them are what we call vibration 2. Their date of birth actually adds up exactly to the same. And when you have someone like me, an expert in 11, I can see that one is what we call a 2/11, the other one is an 11/2. Very little difference in that case.
Okay.
But 2 is about learning about diplomatic behavior, tactful behavior, team spirit, teamwork. So you see a different dynamic there, see.
Okay. Just at the bottom of the hour there, so we're just going to take a quick break, okay?
To connect with the show, email kevin@themoreshow.co.uk. You're listening to The Moore Show. And here's your host, Kevin Moore.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm here with Didier Boyer. Didier, thank you for joining us again.
You're welcome.
Just a quick email we've had in from someone. How does numerology, they're asking, how does numerology heal the past?
So, good question. I had a lady once who I think she had lost a daughter, because I often don't remember what I said because of the psychic mode I'm in. She had lost a daughter in a car crash, or she ended up in a wheelchair. I said to the lady there was a year in her life I didn't like. I've got a special computer program and I can see in your past. And I said, what on earth happened that year? I don't like it at all. And she told me. And then I had this amazing psychic awareness, which I get with massive crystals I use, which you can see on my website. I've got pictures of some of the crystals I use. And I said to her, but she knew who killed her. And the lady was amazed, and she said, yes, she told me the story. She was on her way to work, and she died, or she ended up in a wheelchair for life in a car crash with someone who was on a previous shift, and they were very good friends. And when you can put a spiritual dimension, because I explained to her then it was to do with past life stuff, unfinished business, if you like, and you have a good psychic. And the thing is, there are some psychics which are very good, but they don't have the psychological abilities. You have to be so careful at what words you use and how you treat people. And if you use the right word and the right attitude, you can give a sense to what has happened, and that has a tremendous healing power. I'll never forget a lady who came to me in Cambridge at a healing fair, and she was very nervous, she was shaking, and I said, well, I tell you what, your numerology will show why you've got so much nervous tension. And I looked at her numerology and I said, that's funny, because nothing makes sense there in terms of this hyperness you've got. And she said, well, how about try that for nervous tension? My husband died in a tsunami in front of me, drowning, fighting for a bit of wood with his best friend, and the best friend survived. And I was able to make sense of it, and I don't ask people questions. I tell them what I see, because a great reader should be able to tell you what they see, not say, oh, you wear a red jumper, so you told me you are like a Virgo, and Virgo likes red, or something like that. No.
Yeah.
You say, well, you wear red, so I reckon you are that kind of number or that kind of star sign. And I did such a great job with that lady, and it was a big worry for me, but I asked upstairs, like what I call my upstairs people, the energy of Christ and all that, to guide me. And she came back the day after much more radiant, big smile. She took her sister with her, And over the years, she's brought me people. Her healing had taken place because I told her what the life of her husband was about, what her life was about. I said she should be one of those people who speak out about the way this tsunami was dealt with. And she said, well, actually, yes, I'm part of a group. And I did find then when I went home, I looked on the internet and I saw their names and all the healing they've been doing because of the pain they went through, see. So I made sense of what happened to her and to him. And I'll never forget also a lady I met on the 31st of December, I think it was 2006, and she wanted to know what I did. I was at a wedding, and I knew the universe, what we call the universe, was putting me there for a purpose. And I said to this lady, when she kept asking me questions, I said, right, it's time to show her the power of numerology. And I said to her, 96, which was about 10 years before, I said, there's a horrible year for you there. And her jaw dropped. She went all pale, and she said, my 2-month-old daughter died. And from then, her life completely changed. But I showed her, I had already told her one or two things about her, and I showed her what was the whole dynamic behind the loss of the daughter. And at the end of the evening, I remind the listener it was the 31st of December, and this lady came to me and said, come and let's be frivolous together, if you like.
Yeah.
So I knew that the healing had taken place. Where at lunchtime she looked completely distraught to all the guests, and I was in a terrible situation. But I knew I had some healing to do there, you know. And so you can heal the past by making sense of the past. Yeah. But on a spiritual dimension, psychologists do wonderful work. I work on a different level, and a level which can actually transcend what religion and psychology can not explain.
I mean, here's a bit of a complicated question for everyone, but we're all here to learn this, and we're all learning it. I mean, what is the meaning of life to you?
You mean, well, to me, we all have a different meaning. There's an overriding meaning, which is the Buddhist concept, which we are here to learn about love and compassion. And really, spiritual beings, we have to understand that we're all spiritual beings having a physical experience. We are not physical beings having the odd spiritual experience when we do spiritual stuff. So we are spiritual beings living thousands of lives, and we are here to learn about love, compassion, and giving. But different people learn in different way. Sure. In your case, you are especially here yourself to learn about compassion. I'm here to learn about money and power. People like Obama, Bill Clinton are here to learn about trying to make the world a better place. Richard Branson as well. You've got people who are here to learn about expression, communication. So we all have our own little set of homework to do.
Okay. And do you believe in karmic debts?
Yes, so but not in a Christian way. I don't believe in punishment. There is no such thing as punishment. We choose what we're going to work with. I look at it from the Buddhist principle. Let's say I might have been very bad to people in a previous life, and in this life I want to. Let's say in a previous life I had loads of power and I abused power. Yeah. In this life, I would ask perhaps to learn to have no powers and have all the frustration which goes with it. But you can have people who are horrible to other people in one life, and they will still be horrible to other people in another life. But then there will be another life where they'll learn to go through tremendous pain or betrayal. But to me, they are choices, and we call them karmic debt.
Okay. And what about using numerology to look for a new career? Can you use numerology to...
Oh, yeah. I mean, this year I've helped a lady who never considered being it's one of my greatest achievements, a lady who never considered being a consultant. And she was unemployed for 4 months. She'd lost a £30,000 job and was running out of money, was worried. And I helped her get a new job. I told her I can tell what jobs are. Like if someone has 3 options, I'll tell them which option looks like the one who's going to be successful and the one which is a no-goer. And this lady eventually got a job. Then there was a problem, and I said, no problem. It might look like a problem to you, but it's not to me. Apply as a consultant, and she ended up with a massive increase in her income. I think she's on £280 a day, working 4 days a week, mainly working, well, she works partly from home, partly from an office, which is perfect for her personality.
Okay.
Myself, I got myself a job last year working at the Rugby World Cup in Paris. Entered a competition, and I knew I would win the competition.
Excellent.
I knew I would have to wait,
Yeah.
but I also knew when the opportunity came that it was not going to be as good as previously thought. So you can readjust.
And is that the same for businesses? I mean, if a business is about to launch a new idea,
Yeah.
will they come to you, like small groups sometimes, to say, look, is this the right timing? Is the numbers right in this?
I had a friend who launched a business at the worst time possible, looking at his life chart, and I said, don't do it. And, timing, as they say, timing is everything. The timing was very bad. And within 6 years, he was bankrupt, completely bankrupt, and a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
And because he did not look at the cycles. A fisherman knows that some days are good for fishing and some days are bad because of the weather or whatever. But we think we're above all those cycles of nature, but we are not. And ladies know they are not above cycle of nature. Ladies know a lot about cyclical things which happen every month. And pregnancy takes 9 months normally. There are certain cycles which cannot be avoided.
Right.
And you will find them in business, in relationships, in all sort of things. It's quite ironic, actually, that skeptics, which are mainly mathematician and scientific people, would deny things like numerology, and yet mathematician people, physicians, know about cycles, frequency, vibrations, but they keep saying it doesn't exist when it comes to planet influencing us or numbers influencing us.
I mean, how do you deal with people? How do you personally deal with people that say, what you do is ridiculous and, it's people shouldn't listen to you? I mean, how do you deal with those kind of people?
You have to, because I can see straight through people, I can see where they're coming from. I'm very lucky in a way. I was born in a family where my dad is a very skeptical guy. But because I've studied so many amazing events, I can then come up with stuff which makes them think, makes them wonder.
Okay.
So when you can freak out a skeptic, he's got a problem. If you've got a skeptic, but you say to the guy, didn't you separate from your wife 4 years ago, but you are not divorced yet? And then you can even tell them, like, actually, wasn't it the month of September?
Okay.
And some people, you just respect the difference, and you just smile and avoid them like they avoid you.
So basically, you can use numerology to predict when events are going to be best for you, what situation you're in. You can work out through the timings what's going to be the best way forward.
Yeah. What's the best time to start a new business venture or a relationship? It's quite funny because in my life, for the past 10 years, I've been able to see whether a relationship was going to go anywhere or not.
Yeah.
And the more you work with your intuition, the more you develop that. So you become very psychically tuned in to people.
What if people have got young children or grandchildren, I suppose, and they want to sort of work out what's best for them, what type of studies or career is going to be best for them? Can you use numerology?
So the concept is like, I'm very good at forecasting when people are going to be born. When people give me like a rough idea, it's quite amazing. The concept is that the child who's going to come chooses not only the parents, which is a concept difficult to swallow for a lot of people, but they're also going to choose what they're going to be especially designed for. So you can do an awful lot with kids, help people choose a name which will bring a certain type of kid, a creative kid or more of a reserved type or an extrovert type. And I have a friend who had an amazing daughter. I saw some drawing she did when she was 7 years old. And I looked at her numbers and I said to my friend, you've got to encourage her to go in artistic, creative ways.
Yeah.
And she's now what is she now? She's 18 and she's in an art college.
Oh, wonderful.
But you could tell that from when she was born.
And you've mentioned the Reiki. the Reiki healing. Just go over, just to let people know, what is that you mentioned there?
Reiki is like the ability to channel the healing force we all have within. In fact, talking about the force, if you watch the very first, I think it was the very first Star Wars, when Yoda, I think, describes the force.
Yes, he
it's
does.
Quite amazing. It's actually what Reiki stands for.
Right.
And we all have healing powers, otherwise we'll die from the first cold, the first flu we have.
Okay.
So with Reiki, you learn to channel that through your hands, and you can do amazing stuff, especially I love doing horses. I was scared stiff of horses before Reiki. Now I absolutely adore dealing with them. You can give healing to yourself, to others, and if I was Prime Minister, I would make Reiki compulsory and on the NHS. It will save a lot of money.
Yeah.
People will take responsibilities.
Yes.
I used to have a lot of problems with tiredness. I used to sleep in the 90s every afternoon. I needed a rest. And people would say, well, he's French, so no wonder he needs a siesta every afternoon. But it was interfering with my rugby commitment.
Yeah.
And when I learned Reiki, I used to Reiki myself, and I think maybe within a year, the symptom disappeared, and I was able to go through a day without this loss of energy.
Oh, wonderful. So a bit of self-healing as well.
It's very important for self-healing. I've heard some people have been so badly trained they don't even know they can do Reiki for themselves.
Right.
But it's a very good tool, especially also for relationships. If one of the partner, especially the man, is feeling a bit down, a bit, not up to it, you do some Reiki and off you go again.
Okay.
Which is it's an argument I often use to try to motivate men, because men are so very little interested in spiritual stuff,
Yeah. It's surprising that it's the women that are more interested in the spiritual nature than the men.
The brain, they have more of a right brain kind of behavior. They're more intuitive. They're about intuition and emotion.
Yeah.
The men are too analytical. The ego is much stronger in men, and the ego is always the enemy of the spiritual. So the women who have they have far less ego, so they're much more open. They're not like men thinking, you won't believe in that kind of rubbish. I played rugby till I was about 44, and although a lot of the kids were amazed how I carried on and how long I lasted, none of the guys at the rugby club would look into healing stuff. I had 2 or 3 guys who had a treatment, but the ego didn't allow them to look into those weird stuff, which makes you look a bit like a weirdo,
and didn't you appear on Richard and Judy not too long ago, wasn't it?
Yes, I had the pleasure of going there 3 times.
3 times on Richard and Judy. Excellent.
And very nice people, very generous. Not many people know that, but the show is actually owned by a lovely lady who is married to Jonathan Ross' brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they've always been very good, and it's always been a great pleasure. Richard is here to learn about communication and expression, which is quite funny because he always gets teased about his communication skills as regard to Judy. And Judy, we had a chat on I think it was my first interview there, and I said she was actually not really designed to be a presenter. She was much more shy and reserved than a presenter should be. And she agreed. She said that really a dream would be to be more like a writer. And she's almost, and Richard agreed as well, that she was actually in the limelight but didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So you can see, there is what you see on the outside, and what you know with what I do, which gives you a much greater understanding of people, much more compassion.
Yep.
You know what really they are all about, and what's hard for them, what's easy for them. So you look at people from a different perspective.
Right, well, I'm afraid we're out of time there. We've covered so much, and I just want to say thank you very, very much for joining us on this show. And I hope
thank you, and hello to Wales for me.
I will, and there'll be quite a few people listening to this, and I hope that you can join us again in the not-too-distant future.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you very much, Didier. If you'd like to find out more on Didia, go to www.didierbboyer.co.uk or visit my site, themoreshow.co.uk, and just look up Didia under past guests. So until next time, be safe.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.